Well, it's good to catch up with everybody. I've got a little bit of a list here on the side of who's joined or joining, but glad you had time. We just thought we'd jump on, and we're not here to necessarily sell any new product, but we're more along the lines of trying to think of some creative ways to get through what could be a bit of a challenging time. So if we kick off and we'll run through the slide, but we've got, I don't know if everybody else is on, uses industry reports like Pacificon or BCO, but there's an interesting report out from Pacificon, just surveyed about 380 people across residential, commercial and civil construction. And there's some quite really interesting numbers. We could probably share them later around where people are working or think that the year's going to go. And a similar quantity of people have got about the same work or slightly less work in their pipeline than last year. And saying that, when the market's in recession, some decrease a lot and some decrease just a little. So what our idea basically, and what we've been really focusing on, is trying to find spaces in the market where we can actually grow. So there's the traditional core business, if you like, that has been treating us pretty well for the last few years with the growth in the market, low interest rates and growth in general across the industry. But now it's retrenching a little bit. So better than just, I think there was someone quoting Daniel about basically retrenching and holding on till 25, which I think is a bit of a dumb strategy. Rather look for ways to swap the gaps and try to fill them. And you have to be a bit innovative. Just the 2 points there. Spotting the gaps. We'll try and cover off a few areas where we've seen spaces in the market that you guys could potentially take advantage of. And one of those, amongst others, is there are a few corporate companies that have joined the construction industry in New Zealand, the likes of Icon and CPV and a few of these big trans-Tasman companies. And they've really driven a bit of a culture of de-risking on their sites around access. And I think that's a good thing. It's actually it's good for New Zealand's industry across the board. They might seem a bit draconian sometimes, but it'll be for the better. First product I was thinking about on this slide that is applicable. So Adapter Panel is a product we launched in Australia about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And it's a galvanized mesh panel system. It's rated up to 2 meters and indeed to 3 meters with a specialized post. There's been a big push, if you like, from more of the larger civil construction companies getting beyond 2 handrails or a handrail and a mid-rail and a toe board and changing more into a full mesh panel system, especially around, like the projects like the City Rail Link and some of those projects where you've got pedestrians nearby to big construction works. The Adapter Panel system has been designed to attach to as many things as we possibly can, whether it's a parapet clamp straight onto the side of a slab, whether it's onto a I-beam, whether it's onto a sheet pile. There's an innovative connection method we're selling, which is called non-drill, which can go into the precast, the lifting eyes on precast panels. So we've seen a little bit of an uplift in that, and we see that as an opportunity for growth. I think there's one more slide, and we can send out some rates on these, but we've got basically linear meter rates that we can supply to the industry, or we can dry hire them to the industry. So if you specify a panel system on a tender you've got coming up, and the customer, the client, is requesting something other than tube and clip for your handrails, then if you want to tender on with this, you can look at purchasing it off us, or we can dry hire it. I don't know if you've got anything on that.
Yeah, I guess what's kind of driving these different products, like you were saying before, these corporates coming in, is that the quoting numbers that I've been in the industry for a while, and I haven't sort of heard too many of the details, but the amount of drops that actually happen on a decent sized building site. What were you getting quoted the other day? Someone was quoting numbers.
There's a slide there actually. Yeah, so there was a big project, and we won't name them, but a tier 1 construction company in Auckland, and across 2 sites they had 250, slightly over 250 reported drops. So that's a piece of 4x2, whatever, it can be small, but if it's dropped from 50 metres up, then it's not acceptable if there's pedestrians below or people working anyway, but especially pedestrians below. So yeah,
some of the stories, like I was talking to one chap just last week or a couple of weeks ago, fitting a piece of jib board or whatever it was, cladding on the outside, didn't quite get it right on his cladding. The sheet falls right down and no exclusion zone down the bottom. And suddenly the chap who happens to be working at the bottom gets a sheet of jib, 15 mil fire rated jib, landing 300 mils away from his head. it's sort of these are sort of the things that obviously they're focusing on and we need to pick up, and it's an opportunity. But as you're saying before, the mid rail, handrail, toe board is just not cutting it over here. So that, yeah,
it's a good point. And exclusion zones too, that they say, for example, you got to put up a 2 metre high mesh panel, or even indeed 3 metres right floor to ceiling. That eliminates the need for an exclusion zone. So that area of space below where you're working, you might be working, say, for example, there's a stadium job at the moment people might know of, and they were expecting to clear out large areas of the working floor because they're doing some work on the roof, whereas the product we've suggested is a triple layer netting. So similar to this vertical netting here, but triple layer. So you've got your standard catch netting, and then you've got a separate, smaller, call it a tool catch, like I think it's 25 for 25 net, and then you've got a mesh, a fine debris mesh. So
that's the horizontal plane,
yeah, for sure, yeah. You'll run through this vertical netting.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Just trying to think of different things outside the square that I guess that traditionally it is a tube and clip, or in this picture here, you've also got a company that's developed their own guardrail panel that drops in, and they would typically set a little collar or whatever in the concrete as they pour it, and they drop these panels in. But it's still not getting above that 1 metre mark. It's still like the stuff that people are carrying on their shoulders or whatever it is, it's still going over the sides.
For sure.
So what this here does is this is attached, the picture kind of shows it, but it's attached on the slab up and then goes right down and has an attachment at the floor below. So it's totally excluding that anything falling out, and it's actually a double layer. I think there might even be a double layer there or triple layer on that vertical setup. But they can't, so the same net, these were custom sizes, but they're actually very typical now because floor to floor is quite a common size. You get a 4 metre or whatever it is, 3.6 or whatever it is, but it can be used once again on the horizontal. So these companies out there just doing safety nets, they're also doing scaffolding. Just, I don't know, we're thinking of different ways and opportunities in the market that you could be capturing. The market's asking for it. Let's come up with solutions for it.
It's a good point, because if you just go back to the nets, just come at from the way we often think is come at it from the point of view of rather than just submitting square metre rates and grinding your pricing down to that. Obviously, it comes to that, obviously, in tenders. But if you're constantly thinking around the value add, so sure, that's our kind of staple diet. It's going to be facade, scaffold, 3-plank wide. We can do the lifts at the right heights. We can do whatever. That's fine. But what about saying, hey, by the way, for an extra this, we can exclude the whole floor to ceiling. And it's not a cost heavy thing, really. Like a standard net, we've done one just the other day. So a 5 by 10 or a 3 by 10 metre net, you can stitch them together, and that could be another addition to your business. So you might say, what's it going to add to a job? Maybe it's 10 grand, maybe it's 50 grand. But if you've got just to expand your business somehow, add something on and appear like
something that isn't already there now.
Yeah.
But it is a need. It's a crying need going by those numbers. It's only a matter of time if you get a bolt land on your shoulder, and imagine that dropping from 50 metres. It's gonna. Yeah. It's definitely not just going to be buffed out, is it?
That is looking as bad as us.
Yeah.
We head to the next one. I don't know if this is another one just around innovation. You want to kick off this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been pushing this aluminium for a while. I don't want to sound too salesy in this market, in this forum here, but we sort of go back and see, well, what's growing? Hey, the traditional steel scaffolding, it's very much a red ocean market, as you might call it. It's very competitive out there. It's hard to have some points of difference. The guys that have actually stepped up and started using this are finding that it's actually way better than what we think it is. I had that feedback from one client recently where he didn't want us to tell anyone else about it because it's actually my USP. I'm winning jobs that otherwise you wouldn't get, and it's actually way better than what you think it is. So he wasn't prepared to pass on all the details, but needless to say, he was very happy with it, and it's working well. And this could open up other opportunities for you. Bridge work, hanging work that's built off a floating work surface, like a boat that had to be, one particular instance, the boat was wrapped on the water. They painted the whole boat while it was sitting in the marina rather than get it up on dry dock. A total game changer. You imagine trying to build a steel scaffold on a super yacht and try not to tip the thing over as you're building. It's got to be built, balanced, aluminium, half the weight. Was a total game changer for them.
The key thing, I guess, too, is with the name aluminium, people constantly think, is it got to be like my aluminium mobile scaffold? Is it a 2.3 mil wall thickness kind of strength? Well, it's not until you actually get your hands on it and realise that the engineers and our designers can show what it can achieve. But the spans, the picture there shows a little span, but what you can span with the load rated diagonal, and indeed the leg loads are very high. We were impressed. We've done some more testing recently at a crane yard, and I don't know what you want to say on that, but
we set it up just in the propping setup just to see what would happen. So we set up a little propping tower 3 meters high, braced every meter with the ledges every meter, put the weight on it. It was just down Captain Springs Road, actually. The name of the crane company's just gone for me, Auckland Cranes. Yeah, impressive. It finally failed at 13 tonne, which for aluminium, for steel, you might say, okay, we can get a lot more out of steel. But the fact it was only half the weight in 13 tonne, divide that by 4, put a safety factor in there. Still, it does a lot of work that, there's a lot of propping out there that doesn't need to be heavy duty, and it's half the weight easy to put up.
Definitely not promoting it as a propping product per se, but if you are using it and there's a load that needs to be put on it, you can rest assured that it can take a lot.
Basically, that's what we're saying. It's heavy. It's a heavy duty aluminium system. Just looking for different ways to help you guys, different things in the market you may not be doing now and could be focusing on, because it's the guys that are out there that are doing the hustling, doing the extra, getting on the phone, making the calls in a tight time. They're the ones that are going to keep ahead.
This is another element to the business. Now, Daniel and I went across to visit our friends at Alba the other day. So Alba do a range of rack and pinion hoists, and there's all sorts of types of scaffold. I don't know if you want to cover off the mast climbers. There's some innovation that they do in Europe that we don't have here yet, and I think there's space. We're innovative and we're prepared to step out of the norm a little. Things like reclads could be done off a mast climber. They do it in Europe. I don't see why we can't do it here. Swinging stages are a little bit more affected by the wind and don't have the same weight loading. But the small hoist on the left is capable of going up to 70 metres. It's a 250 kg rated little hoist, but perfect for a gear hoist. So if you're doing daisy chains and you're copting jobs with a daisy chain of guys, just consider this. You're talking approximately 40 grand to get up to 30 metres for the complete kit. So they're not an expensive unit, but a massive game changer. So we're prepared to offer those for dry hire or for sale. The project's coming up. I don't know anything else to cover up on that.
No, just once again, just trying to think outside the square, being ahead of the game, look at different ways of doing things. Scaffolding, hey, we're in the scaffolding market, we're talking to scaffolders here on the call, but it may not be the best solution for the job. So this is more just get the creative juices going, basically.
And some technical corporate words like pivot and adapt and innovate. So that's probably about it. I don't know. Basically, we thought we'd be keen to just basically recognise that people are taking the time to jump on here. Anyone that places an order with us over the next wee while, the first 5 we're just going to send one of our new gazebos. So place an order and quote webinar and we'll get something out to you. There's 0 conditions apply to that, apart from you have to be one of the first 5. And 1 per customer, it says too. You can't place 5 orders.
It actually works well in both winter and summer.
As we can see out the window here, it's prepared to test it. And the other thing, we're really keen to see these products, and we haven't talked about the bottom one, the adapter span. Dan can cover that. But with the vertical nets and with the adapter panel, if anyone's got a tender they're submitting or a job they're submitting, and they're keen to get this, we're keen to promote them with giving away $1,000 for the first 10 inquiries, which by my maths is 10 grand. If you spend $5,000 on these items, and that can be purchase or rental. But just to cover off on that adapter span, the bridge there on the bottom right-hand side.
Oh yeah, that's just another idea on something that traditional scaffold may not actually cut the mustard. What was that job that we just did the other day? It's been going around social media just recently too.
JP rigging?
JD rigging.
JD rigging, yeah. He had a job out on Devonport where they had to take the marina, the permanent bridge, away for some maintenance. And so they needed something in place for, it was just a week or 8 days or something, just a short period of time. Well, we basically packed it up, sent it out to him. He assembled it himself on site. I don't know what the span was. Was it 12 or 15 metres?
Yeah, 15 metres.
15 metre span. And he bolted that in place. They kept the wharf open for that period of time. and he packed it down and sent it back. And that same bridge is now being sent across to Rangitoto Island, and the construction company was wanting to, again, replacing a bridge, needed pedestrian access. It's rated to 2.5 kPa to 15 metres, and then we can, beyond that, we can either rate it down or there's some additional braces we can put on it to increase the span. We've done totally modular, yeah. So I think there's 6 bolts per section, per segment, and they come in 3 metre segments, 2 metre segments, or 1 metre segments.
Sounds like somebody doing a few segments out the back here too. Sorry about the background noise.
We are sitting inside beside our factory. Feel free to come up to our factory, by the way. If you're going north, you'll have to go directly past our factory because you turn off at the Brandowans and come and knock on the door and we'll show you around. I think that's about it, eh?
Yeah, I think that covers it. Is that all right, Sarah?
That is perfect, guys. Did anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? Alrighty, we've got one question here. I think I've enabled your mic now.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, hey,
That's better.
I'm Vadim. Not so much a question, but just a supportive comment. I just think your slab screens, fall prevention rather than exclusion zones, meets the requirements of the hierarchy of control. Just an awesome solution. I do see it overseas. I'm starting to see it creeping into New Zealand, and I think the point about being something you can offer to your clients is a really, really, really valid one. Our top companies we work with are looking more and more for solutions like that. So yeah, I just think it's an excellent solution. I really support you're promoting it as a better control than just letting stuff drop on the sides. Well done.
Yeah, that's good, Vadim. It's good. Fully support it. It's like you say, if something comes along, sometimes you can approach them like it's a bit draconian and why are we doing this as an overkill? But it's also an opportunity to step up and add another arm to your business.
You still get a lot of pushback, don't you, from the traditionalists where it's just mid-run. But I think it's probably on us to actually be raising it. I couldn't believe the numbers, actually, the amount of drops, and some of the actually serious drops. It's a wonder we don't have more serious injuries. But yeah, I don't know. Use it as an opportunity.
I was interested in that too. Like it was 100, one site was 100, but the other site was 150 reported. And I don't know whether the whole industry reports that, whether High-Ends or any of those associations promote the reporting of drops like that. I assume they have something like it. But there's probably a dozen unreported ones for every reported one. There's a chunk of boxing tumbled over the edge. But feel free to reach out to. I don't know if that screen on there, but just if you want more info or spec sheets to pass on to your customers, we're more than happy to send stuff through. If you need rates, that's more of a commercial thing, but again, fire that through too. We're keen to help out.
Look, not that you need any advice from me on how to run a business, but I think you should be giving this presentation to the certified builders, master builders, Chazians, anyone who actually manages and controls projects, because as a service provider, we can offer this as a solution. But I think generally, coming from neutral ground where you are, making the whole industry more aware of their responsibilities, the problem and solutions. It's a big deal. I totally support you presenting this to other groups inside the construction sector.
That's a good point, because it can be a little bit hard. Like you say, unless the building industry takes it on and they're quoting their jobs with it in mind, if you come along and it's another whatever on top of your tender, they're like, great idea, but it's not in the job, so we're not doing it. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle unless we can get them on, see the value add for them. And the value add too, if you take aside the human cost of injury and you just talk about it purely from a corporate risk management point of view, like it sits on their balance sheet as a risk, right? Then to eliminate that, they need to spend the money on it. They need to put it into their tenders.
No, I appreciate the opportunities here. It's good. It's a good initiative of SARNZ.
Yeah, it's good. Good way to reach out to people. We've got a list of the attendees, and some may have not got on. And we'll send some information. Got a bunch of friends on here, so we'll send a thing afterwards.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again for presenting today. Appreciate your time taken today to be able to be here and to present to everyone. So thank you again for taking part in the session today, and we hope to see you again for future webinars that we'll be holding later this year. So from SARNZ, ka kite anō.